Hey, so what's up to this week's Power Up, Bridge Builder Power Up, where we are here to resource and lean into the community, the network, you guys. And Peter and I had a great call this morning, just really pressing into where we should give our energy. What should we allow to continue to stay as a part of our reach, part of our network, part of the things that we give energy to. And it comes down to how you view assets versus liabilities. All right. And so Peter, what are your thoughts, man? Assets or liabilities? Do we buy? Do we sell? Is it time to hold them, time to fold them? You know, what are your thoughts, man?
Yeah. Well, this talk today was really, really good because I've been stewing on this like all week, and I've been digging back into Rich Dad Poor Dad, kind of revisiting some of that stuff. I think I read it back in like early in college, or went through or listened to it or something. And I was in school for business, so I thought I knew what was going on, and I think I had it all figured out. I thought,
Took that
honestly,
accounting 101, huh?
yeah, I thought that it was like, he had an opinion, but it wasn't the opinion. Like my business professors and my people that I looked up to and respected told me, well, if you really want to be in business, you have to do it this way, right? So I just and then I had a couple friends that were doing the Rich Dad Poor Dad model and like killing it. I mean, like making crazy amounts of money for their age, doing things like, wholesaling and flipping and real estate and all that stuff. And I just thought it's too complicated for me. I don't think that way. I'm not wired that way. So I just kind of never really thought much about it. And then, yeah, like about a week ago, I was thinking about it, and I was like, I think I need a mindset shift on some things, because I'm really stuck in, I'm going through this metamorphosis personally right now, where I'm coming to an understanding of things that a lot of questions that I've had for a long time. All the answers are kind of starting to fall into place right now for me personally. And so that as I process that stuff, I'm starting to realize that I had a lot of stuff right, or I was on the right track a while ago. And I just kind of got off base, mainly because of emotional decision making. I made decisions more based on how I was feeling, or, wanting to feel secure, rather than feel out of control and taking risks. That out of control feeling comes from not knowing what's going on, from feeling like you don't have a grasp on a principle or something like that. And so I'm sorry for the long-winded answer, but that's all to say, I'm listening, and he's explaining the difference between assets and liabilities. And I'm driving down the road, and he's like, do you know what the difference is between an asset and a liability? And I think, well, my house is a asset and my cars are liabilities and all that. And then he just says, plain as day, assets put money in your pocket, liabilities take money out of your pocket. And I just out loud, I was like, whoa, it's that easy? It just kind of hit me like, an asset is something that puts money in my pocket, and a liability is something that takes money out of my pocket. And obviously there's like a middle ground where we're talking about expenses and things like that. But, it's a very simple concept. And it got me thinking about a lot of the things in life that we tend to put our time and energy into without really considering, is this thing an asset or a liability in my life? Not talking about money now. We're talking about, time. Is this thing, and maybe I'm investing my time in something that is actually, it's taking away, it's a liability. And so I'm never going to get a return on that time investment. Now, I know that there are some things where we don't know if something's going to pan out, and we're taking a risk. And that we do that all the time in business. That's different. That's a little different, because there's calculations you can take to make sure that the risk, there's some cushion there in case it does fail. But, what I'm talking about is thinking about what you're doing before you do it, or just because someone you respect or look up to tells you should try something. Really, you need to take the responsibility to look at that and say, is this really something that's going to add to or take away from?
Yeah.
And another layer to that, which I'm really understanding now too, is that if you're investing, something may be an asset today, but a liability in 6 months. And because of that, you have to really consider, the thing that the season you're in, the thing that you're considering, and is this something that's going to serve me long term, or is this something that is going to begin to take more than it gives back in the long run? And so, we're talking about business relationships. We're talking about the networks and the people that we want to associate with, the kinds of clients that we seek out to work with. We sometimes have, I know I had a tendency to be afraid of saying no to a client because I needed the income, instead of actually taking a look at, is this client that I'm considering taking on going to be something that there's a reciprocal value there, where I'm exchanging my knowledge and time and all that in exchange for, money, which really is just a representation or transfer of, some would say money is just energy, transfer of, goods from one side of the table to the other. And, but then with that transaction, we want to see reciprocation. We want to see something develop further than just a point of sale transactional type mindset. And, a lot of times, when you're working in a consumable type of a market where you're constantly marketing your product because people are always consuming it and they need to always continue to consume it, that's a little bit different than, creating relational type of a business where the services and the goods that you offer are just so happen to be the way that you develop a relationship with your client base, but really you exist to make them better. And so understanding all of those things lends itself to you asking the question, is this thing that I'm about to engage with an asset or a liability? Or is it something that maybe seems like it could be a liability? And, taking that consideration, then my hunch is, and I'm not speaking from a lot of experience here, but my hunch is that in 5 years, if you've invested in things that are assets and not liabilities, you're going to start to feel that repayment. And that's where the passive, not just income, not just financial income, but the passive wealth begins to build.
Yeah.
The relational equity, that's the networks, that's the businesses that you're working with, the people,
the time, relationships. Yeah.
It's viral. It feels like community. It feels like something that we all can, we all have our piece and we all get to contribute to. And so, really, I'm talking about the Bridge Builder Network, guys. That's what this is. And what we're doing right now is we're helping to kind of unpack elements and layers of the things that Chauncey and I believe in deeply, that if we can create environments for you to have opportunities, or create opportunities for you to begin to not just make more money, but actually develop and build wealth, relational wealth, financial wealth, and social and all, and the way that you're able to serve and give back, serve others. Endless opportunities to be creative with that stuff, and that's what really gets me excited, is thinking about when we're all working together on projects to make each other better. And so anyway, I want to encourage y'all with that. That's all I'm going to say. And I'm fired up today. So listen, look at your stuff and just say, is this an asset or a liability? And if it's a liability, maybe it's something you want to do for fun. If you have the resource, the time to take it on, and it's, it's not going to give back much, then maybe just some joy, but it's not going to return, financially, go for it, but make sure that doesn't become something that becomes a leech on your,
life,
day to day. Yeah. On your life. Yeah. Cause it can happen.
Hey, so I got a question, Peter. Like you're taking us to school on it. You're fired up about it. Can a particular item, particular event, particular group, particular whatever it is that you're evaluating, can over time it switch from a liability to an asset, or from an asset to a liability?
Oh yeah, 100%. I think about if you buy let's just talk about it in practical terms. If you bought a rental house, a property to rent out, and you had a tenant, and they had a 2-year lease, and then, that their 2-year lease comes up and you've been looking for new tenants, and it's a weird market, and there's just nobody that wants to fill it, and they end up moving out, and now you got a vacant house. Well, that income property that was generating, or at least paying for itself, hopefully making a little bit of cash that you're reinvesting in other things, all of a sudden now that becomes a liability. And so I think you could kind of use that picture and overlay any sort of scenario, relational scenario, or business opportunity type scenario where, I mean, that's why you have to do your research before you buy a rental property. You have to not just look at, is it a good value? Is the property a good value? But is it a good market for rentals?
Yeah.
Is it in a good part of town for rentals? Is there, what's the currently like, and historically, what have been the number of people actively looking for rentals versus rentals on the market, and if you do all that research on the front end, you're kind of hedging your bet that this is going to be something sustainable. Again, overlay that same scenario or that same picture on a practical scenario you may be facing where that's why I say do the work on the front end to really evaluate, do your due diligence to make sure that I'm about to invest my time, which is really valuable, in something sustaining for a period of time. And so if I'm going to make that personal investment, I need to count the cost.
Yeah. What's the return on it? Yeah.
Right, exactly. And again, in business, we do this all the time. We don't know. I mean, it may become a liability, and it's something that happened totally out of our control. And that's where you cut your losses sometimes, or you just white knuckle it. But there are a lot of scenarios where bad things happen, bad deals go down just because we didn't prepare, we didn't plan, we didn't consider, we didn't count the cost. And unfortunately, the tough thing there is it is kind of on you, and you have to just eat that, own it, and learn from it. Don't waste it. Take that energy and learn from it, and then the next time you have that opportunity, don't shy away from it, but double down with your experience and your knowledge and make a better decision next time around. So
yeah, absolutely, man. And then to that point is in the space of leadership and business and impact, it is important that we periodically do an assessment where we do evaluation to see, okay, is this thing, this house that was an asset, has it become a liability? Am I getting a lot more calls, a lot more repairs? Is it, more of a headache, a liability? Is it costing me? Or like you said, taking away or, and not adding to. And so it's important, I think, that we periodically, come up for air, from the grind of the build and the movement to assess the things that we are giving our energy, resources, time, effort to make sure that they are continually serving. And with that valuation, you can, like Peter said, like do your homework, right? Really assess, what is happening realistically with this thing with my time. And if it's adding value to, then hey man, let me figure a way to make it multiply. And if it's taken away from me, how do I disconnect? So wisdom as leaders in business and in the Bridge Builder Network, man, like our goal always is to build bridges and change lives. And this power up is about assets and liabilities. And we hope that you are taking a fair evaluation before you jump into stuff, as you are engaged and rolling with stuff, and making the right decisions, making the hard decisions, the right decisions to walk away or to double down on things that are adding value. Assets over liabilities, man. It's the Bridge Builder Network, building bridges and changing lives.